He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
And we're back.
We are back. We survived another week.
Angry Mortgage is on the air. Natalie Butler, realtor extraordinaire. Ron Butler, old fat angry mortgage broker. And here we go. So what happened last week? Because people want me to give the dates now. So this is the middle of August. We're now in the middle of August.
Yes.
One sad thing. And there's just been a lot of fire disasters all over the world this year. Horrible things. I'm not going to take away from the poor people who lost their homes in the Maritimes and
Homes or their lives.
And a couple poor people lost their lives. And there's been firefighters who've lost their lives out west. And it's the worst year by, I don't know, forest fire's worst year by a multiple of, 5 or 6 or 8 times, whatever it used to be average. It's been a complete disaster, but I guess have to say that this thing in Hawaii sort of touches you if you've been to Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii many times, okay? So I've actually sat, me and Mrs. Mortgage Broker, Mrs. Mortgage Guy actually sat in the bar that burnt down, Fleetwood's Bar, McFleetwood's Bar. We've had drinks and dinner there, and there's something about a place you've been, actually sat in.
Yeah.
And I've been to all these provinces where all these fires are, but it's just it hits you. It hits you. Like, I mean, sweet Jesus, Maui burnt down.
Yeah, and that's a whole different culture out there too.
Well, it's wild, right? Because the populations of all the Hawaiian Islands, the people who live there forever, is about 1.6 million. And there's 11 million visitors a year.
Yeah.
11 is one of the biggest places for tourism on the planet.
Oh, definitely. Well, it's bucket list for me.
And it burnt down.
Wow.
And it's just I don't know. I just have to say it doesn't take away from any of the horrible things that have happened in Canada. But it's just a whole town gone in hours. It's like, I think 70 people dead, and it's gone. Like, it's just friggin' gone.
That's crazy.
And so it's just, folks, I just gotta say it, like, climate change is real.
Welcome to global warming. It's getting fucking hot.
Climate change is real.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that, every policy that we think about is right, okay? Because there's some shit for brains policies running around for climate change. But, man, it's real. Holy shit. By the way, the place that burned down, like I said, I've been on those streets. I've sat in some of those restaurants, bars. That's an old place, actually. Like Lahaina, apart from being where originally Polynesians settled, thousands of years ago. That little town has been there for in a sort of a biggish, visitors have been coming to it for over 300 years. It was a whaling village, whaling ships from, we going back now into the 1700s and 1800s. Whaling, tons of whales in Hawaii. If you've ever been to Hawaii, there's whales up the yin yang or in around the Hawaiian Islands. And so they came there, in the 1800s, they harvested the whales. And so that was people have been visiting Lahaina from all over the world for 350 years, and it's gone. Okay.
That's crazy.
Anyway, so sorry about this fire stuff is just terribly shitty. So it's awful. Okay, so what happened with rates, mortgage rates? So tiny bit up.
They went up.
But probably leveling off.
Hopefully.
Leveling off right now, which is still pure crap. Okay, that means almost all the rates in the 6s. Majority of mortgage rates in the 6s for all terms.
So what's an alternative rate right now? Like, say you're going with a B.
Well,
lender.
that's the
What's
weird
that
part.
at?
That's the weird part. The B rates are. So, folks, just to help you understand, for new listeners, people are wondering, what the fuck? What are they talking about? B? What's a B?
Yeah.
So, we should really call it alternative, I guess.
That's
By the
why
way,
I said that first.
that's why. Yeah. So, yeah, alternative. You said it right. I said it wrong. So, alternative rates means the banks and trusts and big federally licensed financial organizations that provide rates other than bank rates, which banks could be very, very strict, and they'll be getting stricter. These are rates that are, if you have some difficulties with your credit rating, and
Do a lot for self-employed.
and a lot for self-employed, and some for new Canadians,
Yeah.
and some for Canadians living outside of Canada who want to buy a house in Canada, come back. So
Yeah.
there's lots of stuff like that.
There's a need for the product.
There's a definite need for the product. And the crazy part is most rates are in the either very high 5s or 6s for regular mortgages from a bank. And these alternative mortgages are in the 7s.
Still 7.99.
No, like 7.49.
Oh, they came down.
7.69. They're down
They
a
came
touch.
down.
Well, they came down, and then they haven't gone up as much because
Yeah.
here's what happens. Those rates are not using the same kind of securitization that big bank rates. Like banks are putting out, even though there's half the amount of mortgages being done than there was in 2021. Some maybe by the end of this year, less than half than 2021. So far less mortgages being done, even far less mortgages than 2019. So less mortgages, but still billions and billions and billions of mortgages.
Yeah.
Okay. And you need to securitize those. Like you can't just match it up to your GICs and savings accounts. Like you just can't say, well, I got this much in the savings account, this much GICs, I can put out this much mortgage. But you can do that for alternative lending. For alternative lending, you can do almost all of your funding comes from GICs and high interest savings accounts. Okay. What the upside of that is that all those rates are sort of settled. They're settled. You're in the 5s, right? They're in the low, high 4s, mid 5s. And you can fund mortgages at 7.69 because that's an adequate spread. Like if we got a 5.35 GIC, and because all the alternative, just for folks out there listening and watching, these are always 1 and 2 year mortgages. They're like no 5-year. There's no 5-year, alternative.
That's not even an option for them, is it?
With some of them, it's not.
Yeah.
Some of them it is. Many of them, it's not. Okay. So basically you're working off 1 and 2 year GIC rates. So if the GIC is 5.35 and the alternative lender is 7.69, that's the spread they need. They don't need any more. So when you're trying to securitize mortgages, you're always working against bond yields, which can fluctuate a lot. But the GIC rates have pretty much settled.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not hard for these guys to fund their mortgages. Okay. But everybody's got to remember there's a fee. Okay. This is the really important part.
Oh yeah.
Like when you get a mortgage from an alternative lender, you might say to yourself, well, Jesus, 7. Oh, you hit the mic. I mean, folks, when you heard that little noise, that was the mic hit. I mean, the thing about me is I barely move once I sit here, so nothing gets disturbed very much.
I've had too much coffee, and I'm all jittery now.
I'm like I was telling Natalie before the show started. So we're talking about the camera angles, and I said I just look like Jabba the Hutt sitting here. Okay, like seriously. I'm just
for
wanting.
Halloween, I'm gonna be Leia, and you can be Jabba.
I could be Jabba the Hutt. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Anyway, bottom line is that with all of there's a fee. There's always a fee. Like there's no fee at a bank. Like you go into the bank, you get the rate. That's it. That's the rate. There's no additional cost. But with these alternative lenders, there is a fee. It's typically 1%.
Yeah,
okay.
That's lender fee, and then typically 1-ish for broker too.
That's all over the map.
Yeah,
I mean, some mortgages there's no brokerage fee because the alternative lender pays us. So, but at the end of the day, those rates are not like 8s and 9s. They're just not.
No.
So, I mean, in some ways it's good. In some ways it's not so good because it's still, oh Jesus, I remember when we thought 3.99 was the end of the world. Like literally a year ago, My God, these rates are going to $3.99. What will we do? Okay, holy shit. Like, I mean, it's still high. It's still really high.
It's the same as gas prices, though. Remember when gas prices started to go up? I'm going to stop driving. No, you're not.
Hold on. I'm more thinking of butter and bacon because, those are things I think about a lot, obviously.
You know
Okay.
what pisses me off is lettuce.
Lettuce is through the roof.
Lettuce makes me angry.
And by the way, it's local lettuce now, right? I mean, in Canada, we grow lettuce in the summer, right? So
Can we all remember when lettuce tried to kill us?
lettuce tried to kill us?
With
What?
E. coli. Remember the E.
Oh,
coli?
yeah. There's E. coli. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Lettuce tried to kill us. And then there's still, what was it? I think $4.99 for a head of lettuce. It was crazy.
No, it's like,
And my family likes to take a little bit out of it. My family being your son and my son. And
Yeah.
we like to use a little bit and leave it on the counter.
Yeah.
And just,
Throw it away?
yeah, it's great.
Jesus
My
Christ.
fucking $5 lettuce. I'm so mad. I'm so mad.
We won't talk about cauliflower. So, by the way, a real quick aside, I was listening to because I listen to podcasts too.
Yeah.
I was listening to another great podcast, the Looney Hour, Steve Saratsky out of Vancouver. And he said something interesting that I agree with. He says that sometimes it's hard to talk about inflation rates from a technical point of view, CPI, Consumer Price Index. Sometimes we talk about all these things like it's very much a mechanical thing that's part of our business, which it is, because inflation drives rates, right? Drives bond yields, drives rates, drives everything, drives the Bank of Canada decisions, drives a lot. So we tend to talk about it technically. But as Steve said wisely, you get like attacked online when you talk about it very technically, because you get a bunch of people screaming at you like online. You get comments like, "Well, fuck you! The price of food is so high, you rich bastard." Okay, like, and maybe they shift over to me like, "You fat bastard." Okay, because I'm less
more than your share.
because I'm less rich than Steve. But but yeah, like it's like yeah, you fat bastard. You eat more than your share. You dirty bastard. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, we got to recognize that sometimes when we're talking about things from a really technical point of view, like high mortgage rates and high payments and inflation, we talk about a lot of it technically, but for most people, it's just pure pain.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible part of raising a family is these high food prices. Okay, so rates have kind of leveled off. A lot of people ask, well, okay, so they've leveled off maybe. Like, tell us when the hell they're going to come down. Like, when are the rates going to come down? Okay, we want to know down. Okay, nobody knows. Okay, not this year, for sure. That seems to be just like a kind of a dead certainty. There won't be much rate change this year. But when next year do rates come down? Well, first thing I got to tell you is fixed rates come down first. Okay, just like fixed rates went up first, fixed rates come down first, because fixed rates are a function of a bond market, and the bond traders, they spend their lives trying to guess what's going to happen.
Act more quickly than the government?
No, but they just guess. Their whole life is just guessing what's going to happen. And when the Bank of Canada or the Federal Reserve in the U.S. have to be these ultra conservative, by the way, somebody texted in that I should do my Tiff Backlund voice for a whole show. Like, no, fuck, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, okay? And it's not happening. So, but if we think about, Tiff for a minute, Tiff Macklin, Bank of Canada governor, he's thinking something like, "Oh, I cannot change this rate downwards until I'm very, very certain of low inflation, very, very certain that no one will make fun of me for fucking stupid decisions. So I will wait until I'm absolutely sure inflation is dead before I lower rates." So that's what he thinks. I think he thinks. He doesn't listen to the show, but if he did, he'd think, "Oh, fuck, that guy's nuts." But the reality is that someday the rates come down. And the most important reason rates come down, we've talked about it before on the show,
People can't suffer anymore.
It's recession. It's a recession. It's unemployment. Okay, it's economic contraction. Recession is 2 straight quarters of negative GDP. Okay, and we're seeing some signs that might be coming. Okay, some retail sales are down a bit. It's kind of selective. It's kind of it's not a clear pattern yet, but this is what we know. If a recession comes, eventually the Bank of Canada cuts rates. The market believes that when both the U.S. Fed and the Bank of Canada start to cut, over the course of about a year, they'll cut like a 1.5 to 1.75%. They'll go down. Now, the bond market, which drives fixed rates, they make their best guess about what these central banks are going to do. And therefore, they lead the central bank. Just like fixed rates went up way more, way faster before variable rates went up.
All the variable people were like, well, I would put to variable. Yeah, it's all good. Da, 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 da.
Oh, and not only that, but, because of the way the stress test worked, if you wanted a bigger mortgage, you had to go variable. It was the craziest thing you could ever imagine. Like, if you need a mortgage, you need as big a mortgage as you can because prices are running up. You had to take variable for about 8 months because that got you the mortgage you needed. Okay, the government be like, oh, jeez, I can't go into that one again. But yes. So when will these fixed rates come down? If we have a very, very clear signs of recession at the end of this year and the beginning of next year, we shall see fixed rates. Variable stays up. Fixed rates start to come down in the new year. Like when, I don't know. First quarter, second quarter, I don't know. Okay. But yeah, someday the rates come down, folks. I mean, I know there's a whole bunch of people out there saying, no, we want 10% rates. Fuck you. No, we don't want 10% rates. And, so that's the call. When you see a lot of discussion about recession, you know that's where it's going.
Yeah.
So the other thing, I spent a little time on that earlier in the week. We're going to just really briefly touch on the First Home Savings Plan of the federal government. You heard of the First Home Savings Plan?
Oh, yes.
So First Home Savings Plan is a tax advantage plan to save for down payment the federal government dreamt up. Now, just like everything else, they dream shit up and they put it out there. They say, okay, it's a new program. And then all the banks say, what the fuck? I got to get started. We need time to get this going. So
aren't they put on title for a certain percentage of
No, that's the other crazy thing. That's the crazy, we're going to share with your down payment program and we're going to go on title with your program, okay? Yeah. Which is
we're not
so bad.
About
that program that came out 2.5 years ago.
That was
a total fucking
that was weird.
Total disaster.
Weird.
Nobody wanted it. Shit plan. But this plan is basically a RSP for down payment.
Oh.
That's what it is. Okay. Cool. So RSP for down payment looks and really looks like an RSP. You get to deduct it from your income, so you get a tax savings when you file. Okay, you got to put the money in. So you just pretty quick. You got to be between 18 and 71 years old to qualify, and you just put the money in. Max is $8,000 per year. You can't have ever owned a home. Now you got to be a little careful on this one because apparently your spouse or common law spouse also can't have owned a home. Okay. You got to be true first-time home buyers, and you put in $8,000 a year to a maximum of $40,000. You get a tax deduction. You get a deduction from your income every year. You save money on your tax, and Canada is the fucking highest tax country I could imagine. Okay, so it's a good thing that way. Maximum is 40, and there's no test for income. As you know, with your RSPs, you're limited by what you can put into an RSP. You're limited by your income. No income test for this thing. Just throw in the $8,000, get to 40, stop, call it a day. If you make a return, like when you get interest on your $40,000, that's not taxed. Growth is not taxed. And here's the real beauty of the program. When you take the money out, put into your down payment, no tax either. Okay, so it's a good program with two key issues. Number one, how the fuck is everyone ever going to keep up with the way that real estate goes up? Like real estate,
$40,000 does nothing.
$40,000 does nothing. Okay, and so that's it's like it's
just more paperwork to get the tax write-off, basically.
Now, that brings us to the weirdest part. Okay, let's say you never buy the house.
Yeah, what happens?
Yeah, exactly. What happens if you never buy the house? Why don't you stay a renter for a long time? Because after you start the program, you only have 15 years to buy the house. Okay, program ends. They time it. You open up the First Home Savings account. They time it for 15 years. End of 15 years, hey, we give up on you. You're not buying anything. Okay. Here's the wild part. It's pretty wild. You just move that into your RSP and God bless.
Oh.
Okay. Oh yeah, like it's foolproof. You don't have to pay the tax back. You don't have to do anything. Okay. So here's what's happening now. Financial planners are going to affluent boomers who have, paid in full $1.8 million homes, and, they're pretty comfortable. And they're saying, hey, you got kids in their 20s. Why don't you gift them this money? Just gift them the money, the $8,000 a year. And it doesn't matter if they never buy anything, they just slide it into their RSPs. So it's brilliant estate planning, right? Like you gift, no tax on the gift, they get the good tax advantage, and if they never use it, they just slide it into their RSPs.
Let's be real. We don't live in New York City. The chances of people never buying in 15 years is...
It might be more real than we think with the price of houses these days. Like you still have to qualify. Yeah. You still have to qualify for a mortgage. I mean,
true.
But like this, what I'm trying to, I guess the point I was thinking about when I thought about these financial plans, and some people online said, no, financial planner would never bother talking about a little piddly $40,000. That's where you're wrong. The smart financial planners, they just want to build assets under management. They take every method that they possibly can to suggest it. Because let's face it, it's just like a email. It's just a post. It's just a newsletter. Yeah. Okay. Hey, if you got kids in their 20s who want to save for a house, this is brilliant. Let me just explain how. Okay. And so the gifts start rolling in, and come on. I mean, like every single financial planner just wants more assets under management. That's their jobs. Okay. So this brings me to this. The key point in my mind is that once again, all of this stuff that governments do, and all this stuff to do with real estate in the expensive provinces, it's about the luck of the sperm draw. Okay, like you better just pray your parents are wealthy. Okay, you better pray your parents are willing to give you money. That's the only way you're going to get a down payment. You may even need them for a co-signer. With the average price of over $1 million in British Columbia and Ontario, 20% down is $200,000. Who the fuck has $200,000 when you're 25 years old?
To save, yeah.
That's a lot. It's too much. Okay, you can't keep up. So even though this is a good plan, it also underlines the running bullshit of our lives in Canada today, that either if you don't bring in money from outside of Canada, like you have money you're bringing in from outside of Canada, or if you don't have parents who have done well and have paid for houses and want to help you, getting that down payment together is, Jesus, it's really rough. Okay, so again, luck of the sperm draw. The most important thing about homeownership is having the right parents. Okay, like that's fucked up. All right. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about today that's come up in the news and is always worth talking about in Ontario and British Columbia, and to a certain extent, even in southern Alberta too. But I keep coming back to the fact half of everybody in Canada lives in Ontario and BC. Sure. I mean, that's just the truth. So the cost of raw land, okay, just the cost of land is in the news. Okay.
Well, you know what they say, buy land, God's not making any more.
Yeah. Although this is the second biggest country on earth. All right. The second biggest landmass for a country on earth is Canada.
What's the percentage that's protected by Greenbelt? It's like something
we're gonna hit the Greenbelt thing in a minute. But like what drives me crazy is that when you look at the price of houses, there's a few components. There's all the government bite. When you're building a house, or you think about new construction. Yeah. Government takes a huge chunk of new construction for themselves, all levels of government. Construction costs are way up. Okay. But the cost of the land. Now, let's separate new subdivision from infill. Let's just talk about infill for a second. Folks, infill means it's a lot in an established part of any city. Could be Vancouver, could be Chilliwack, could be Surrey, could be Mississauga, could be
one house on it. Now
Kitchener,
maybe you can put two.
Maybe you put two. Maybe you can put five.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean you can. They have that legislation now. But what actually happens in the majority of cases with these infills? So when you look at a lot, and you say, well, basically there's just an old tired house on it, right? Like there's a house nobody wants anymore. Now well,
listen, it could be a beautiful home, but when you get down to the nitty gritty of it and the financial aspect of it, sometimes it is cheaper to tear it down.
Well, let's just
then put up a whole new structure.
Let's just be honest. Like structures age.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I got to hand it to those Egyptian fuckers. The pyramids are still there. Okay.
Yeah.
But
they're not really inhabitable anymore.
no, nobody's living in it. Nobody ever did live in them. But I'm just saying that if you think about let's face facts, folks. If we go into the average 75-year-old house, unless there's been major work done on it very consistently.
Huge work, including, knob and tube as an example.
Oh, there's just so many,
Knob
right?
and tube is just a deal killer.
Or how about, like, the kitchen looks like it's an episode from 50s black and white television.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I mean, it's
cute to look at. You're like, oh, look at this old kitchen. It's so cute. Do you want to live here? No.
No, fuck no. Okay. Like, I mean, it's got the green, you go into the bathrooms, it's got the green tub.
Oh, I
okay.
like the pink ones.
Or
pink
oh my
ones are
God. Yeah.
favorite.
Okay. So no, that's just,
the blue are cute. The
oh
powder
my
blue.
God. Don't say the blue. I'd forgotten the blue. I'd forced the blue out of my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Do you remember when bathrooms were carpeted?
I do remember in part. Could you imagine? Like, what are you going to do with
The
that?
amount of pee
You
on that carpet?
imagine like dribble of. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like,
no, I've shown houses with carpet in the bathrooms, and you look and you're like, ugh.
yeah, but
what's it like taking that up?
And by the way, that's an excellent point. When
Yeah.
you show this very, very old house, the first thing that people say is, when we call them dated houses, we
Yeah.
could call them out of fashion, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call them. But it's very clear that, hey, nothing's changed here for 70 years.
Yeah.
Okay. When you show that house, the first thing people talk about is renovation, right?
Oh yeah,
Every time.
What's this going to cost?
Every time. Okay.
How much you got?
Right. So let's just look at the truth of everything. When we talk about infill, and let's just set aside all of the turn it into a duplex, turn it into a triplex stuff. Let's put it aside
We're
for a
talking
second.
single family home.
Talk about a single family home. So if we look at a very tired house, very old, no updates, no renovation, very tired. I mean, some stuff may be going wrong with it, right? Like
Something going seriously wrong.
something goes seriously wrong. So when you look at those, let's just take an example of, say, Surrey, White Rock, or you come here to Ontario, Mississauga, Burlington kind of thing. Okay. Old houses. You just tear them down, right? I mean, that's
You leave one wall up.
or leave one wall up.
It's a whole.
Yeah, we can talk about all that shit.
It's
Yeah,
a
we'll talk
whole
about all
new
that crazy
permit if
construction.
one-
Yes,
if one
yes.
wall stays,
Yes,
it's a whole-
absolutely.
it's a game changer.
Absolutely. We can talk about all the permit insanity, but that's a different show.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about land pricing. Okay. So I had occasion to look at a property that had recently sold, and it was in an average neighborhood in Mississauga. I'm going to say quite average. Nice. It's nice. It's not like a crap neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it's a nice neighborhood. All about 65-year-old houses. Okay. 55 to 65-year-old houses. But not a famous neighborhood. Like, there's a few, in any place that's over 1 million people, like Mississauga, there's always famous neighborhoods, right? Or Oakville, there's famous neighborhoods. Toronto, there's famous neighborhoods. Famous moneyed neighborhoods. Whether it's
Well, in Toronto, you can be Drake's neighbor.
yeah, you can be Drake's neighbor
On the bridle path.
on the bridle path, or you can
Yeah.
be where all the bank CEOs are down in Rosedale. Okay, you can do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's famous neighborhoods, and this was not a famous neighborhood.
No.
Not at all. So I'm looking at this place. It sold for $1.38 million
And that's dirt.
to a builder.
Oh.
To a guy who's building it. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the starting point. That's the dirt cost.
That is the dirt.
So, whoa, that's wild. Okay, like so, if it costs you $350 a foot to build, and you build three, all of a sudden, you want to put a single family home up there, you got to sell that sucker for like 2.6, 2.7. Okay, to make a profit, because you want to make a profit. If you're building, you want to make a
To
profit.
break even.
No, and you got to pay the interest cost. You got to pay the carrying cost. You got to pay the real estate commissions. You got to pay a lot. Okay, so, oh my God. So if you wonder if the dirt in a average, just a nice average neighborhood with a 45-foot lot, frontage lot is like 1.4 million. Well, what's a fancy neighborhood in Mississauga lot
Lauren
go
Park.
for?
I saw a piece of just like a hair outside of Lauren Park, piece of dirt with actually went in on opinion of value and didn't get the listing. That's fine.
Yeah.
Listen, I was
we
low.
won't say who people lost out to. We won't say what son of a bitch we lost. Sam and Daddy. There we go. So anyway, go ahead.
Of course I did.
Yeah.
No, but I was low because it was just the house was a complete
It's a teardown.
an utter teardown.
Yeah.
Beautiful neighborhood. That we're talking like backing onto Rattray Marsh, which is then goes into
The lake.
The lake.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the whole conservation that goes behind there.
Yeah.
That piece of dirt sold for $3 million. Dirt.
Because you are tearing the house down there. Period. Right.
The house is still standing.
But it's nobody's planning on.
I don't foresee how you could restore. Like
The only reason.
The only reason was the neighborhood
That's it. Okay.
and the proximity to the lake.
Okay, folks. $3 million for dirt. Okay. This is where we're screwed up. I'm going to give you, and sometimes people say, you know, Ron, you should put up graphics and pictures in your podcast. Nah, fuck, we're not doing that. No. Okay.
I think it was Will that said that. Really, no.
I'm just going to explain something so that ordinary people can understand it. Everybody can understand this. There's a place in Ontario called Niagara Falls. Now, Niagara Falls is famous, right?
Of course.
All over the world. Okay. You know, sometimes you could actually go to Europe or go to the US.
But you know it's actually cheap to live in Niagara Falls?
It is. But let me tell you what's really cheap. Mm-hmm. Live on the American side of Niagara Falls. That's crazy cheap.
You can't just be a Canadian, go over to
no, you
the
can't.
States.
But I'm going to use that example.
It's rough.
I'm going to use that example because everybody in Canada knows about Niagara Falls. Everybody in Canada has seen a picture of Niagara Falls. Everybody, I think half the people in Japan have seen a picture of Niagara Falls.
Beautiful,
Like it's a known thing, Niagara Falls.
Well, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world, right?
Okay. Great, but I'm saying like
there's a chasm or canyon or something. Niagara Falls.
I don't know. I don't know what the wonders are.
I don't know. I think I named 3. What are the other ones?
I don't know. I don't know all these wonders.
Comment below if you know all the wonders.
All the wonders. Yeah, right. We'll do that. Yeah. If you know the wonders, put it in the comments section or not. Okay.
Please,
or
I need to
or
know.
not. Or not.
I'm gonna Google it.
Do it or not. Okay. But everybody knows Niagara Falls. Bottom line, everybody knows Niagara Falls. Now, and Niagara Falls is it's actually an old town. Okay, been there forever. The only sort of jobs down there have to do with the casinos and tourism. That's it. Okay, a little bit of agriculture on the periphery, but really it's just tourism, casinos. That's all it is. Okay.
And meth.
And meth, yes, big down there.
Sorry,
but because there's no jobs otherwise, right? Like there's no car plant down there. There's no bank head office there. Like nothing. No. Okay, so and tourism doesn't pay a lot, right? The truth is, it doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, they're service workers, right?
Yeah,
that's fair.
You've got the restaurant workers, casino.
Yeah, like the bank CEO.
Hotels,
sure, they're not living. The people who run big companies aren't living in Niagara Falls.
No.
Okay, it's a nice town. I like the area.
Well, you can go to Niagara on the Lake.
Beautiful place. There's a lot of beauty down
story.
there. No question. It's beautiful. Okay. Now, really important, folks, to know this. Niagara Falls is right on the border. Literally, the river is the border between the United States and Canada. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there was a little tiny article was posted on Twitter, a picture of a bungalow style home. Mm-hmm. Old, like I'm talking old, 80-year-old, particular style of the builders of the time. Particular style of bungalows, like 1,100 square feet. That's it. But what was interesting was the same contractor, architect, was somehow working both sides of the border. Like, let's face it, 85 years ago, things were a little more fluid, right?
Yeah,
like people
a little more loose.
A little more loose, okay? They don't have to need a passport to get in everywhere. So people would work on both sides of the border fairly frequently. Especially when the border is just a bridge. Okay, you just go over the bridge, you're there. So they took a picture of identical home in the U.S. side of Niagara Falls. This old 85-year-old bungalow, okay, on the U.S. side, and they found the exact duplicate on the Canadian side.
I bet you there was a $300,000 difference.
That's a good bet, but you would lose.
Oh.
Okay. Because the Niagara, U.S. side of Niagara Falls, USA, it's like, it loses population every year. Yeah. Like it shrinks. Yeah. Okay. Like all of Western New York, that's what they call it, Western New York. All of that part of New York that's away from New York City shrinks in population. Constant. By the way, New York City shrank in population in the last 2 years. Okay. Because of COVID and stuff. But at the end of the day, that exact picture, it's like you cannot, like even the lintels were the same. Like it was exactly the same. It was like a photocopy. I'm not going to explain that to young people what a photocopy is. Okay, like I'm not going to do it. I don't know what you call it when you only live on your phone, but it's a photo. They were like copies of each other.
Yeah.
Okay. U.S. side of Niagara Falls, $118.5 was the offering price. It's U.S. dollars, but it's $118.5. And on the Canadian side, exactly the same house, $645,000.
Wow.
Because we have to understand this. Like this part of North Buffalo, Niagara, Syracuse, all of these places in this part of New York have shrinking populations. There's no new immigrants coming there at all.
And I'll tell you, they don't have a $15.50 minimum wage out there either. It's substantially lower.
It's not a lot different, actually. It's not a ton different. It's New York. New York State's like a blue state. It's got like decent. It's not like Alabama when minimum wage is like $2 or something. Yeah. Okay, like it's. But the point is, people are leaving New York State. Mm-hmm. Like New York State shrinks as a population.
Well, it gets weird when you go over that bridge. I don't know the last time you drove over the border. Oh, yeah. There's a difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, I'm not saying this $118,000 house that is a copy of the house in Canadian side of Niagara. I'm not saying that's a nice neighborhood. That is not a nice neighborhood. Okay, not nice.
Well, it's not the other side of 8 Mile in Detroit either.
Well, I don't know about that, but like let's just say this. Let's just make this point. Our federal government, God bless them, and I'm going to say for the 387th time how much I support immigration and how much I support new Canadians coming to Canada. But the enormous level of immigration we have here, if you want to compare our enormous level of immigration that we have, particularly in Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta, because that's where everybody goes, okay? Because they don't let 50,000 into Quebec. That's it. That they got their limit. So if we compare the level of immigration which spills over into small towns in Ontario, spills over into small towns in British Columbia too. That's the reason the Okanagan's so expensive. That's the reason that the Fraser Valley is so expensive. And that's the reason in small towns in Ontario, house prices are so expensive. Okay. Contrast that with just drive across a bridge and there's less people in that town every year.
Driving into an episode of Mad Max.
Yeah. Well, it's not Mad Max, but it ain't good. Okay. But look, let's say it this way. And by the way, all the people in Buffalo and Niagara, please don't comment that you're sons of bitches. But you also know, all you people in Buffalo and Niagara and all those towns know that every year there's fewer of you in those towns.
Yeah.
Okay. And boy, oh boy, does that make the real estate prices different, right? Holy Jesus. Okay. Like $118.5 in Niagara Falls, USA, $645 in Niagara Falls, Canada. Okay. That's a big fucking difference. All right. And it's meaningful. Let's just say that. Okay. So cost of land. Yeah. Cost of land's a big deal.
It is.
And it's all notional. Like dirt is notional, right? Like why is the dirt worth that $1.3 million that we talked about?
Proximity.
Okay. It's proximity or a lot of other economic reasons, but still they were given the dirt away in Detroit for free. Okay. Like it's proximity to an idea. It's proximity to the growth of a city. It's proximity to, major venues and great and employment and all that stuff. But it's still notional because let's all be truthful. Like I go back to my $1.3 million dirt in Mississauga. When they bought that house 55 or 60 years ago, the cost of the dirt was $20,000.
Yeah.
That's what the city was selling the lots for. $20,000. Okay. Holy shit. That's crazy. Okay.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda, Abe. 100 years ago when you were 20.
Exactly. Why wasn't I just buying land? But look, my point before you skewer me on being so fucking old is
us,
that
Ron.
I brought this on. Yeah, I know. Is that is incredible. Like it's incredible that 60 years ago, 55 years ago, that lot went for $25,000, and the clear value today, because somebody paid real money for it.
Oh yeah, and that's cash. You can't finance.
No, it's very hard to finance development like that.
Well, I think somebody will give you a loan for it, but you're in the 20%.
Well, no, it might be private lending, but you probably have. When I looked at the search, we looked at the title search. It was cash. There's no mortgage on it.
That's like 1 point whatever cash.
1.34. Yeah, it was cash. Okay, and. So that's as real as it gets when somebody ponies up $1.34 million. Okay. But that was 25 grand when they first started building.
It's crazy.
All those years ago. So that does not relate to inflation in any way, shape, or form. That is a whole, if you talk about inflation over 55 years, what's the inflation rate in Canada? There's just no goddamn comparison to that. The price of land is off the charts in some cities in Canada. That's just it. So, and that brings us to our favorite segment.
What the actual fuck?
So, it was in the news last week. What the actual fuck's going on, Premier Ford? Like, what the fuck happened here? Okay, like there was a big investigation. So I'll just quickly set the background. The Premier of Ontario, Premier Ford. He wants to build, in some ways,
good idea.
I think he's actually more sincere than the mayors, the mayors of all the towns in Ontario, certainly more sincere than Toronto and Mississauga mayors. Okay, more sincere than the Ottawa mayor, and more sincere than the Prime Minister. More sincere than Trudeau about, in a very real way, finding a way to actually build houses, build accommodation for people in Ontario. I think the Premier actually wants that. I know people attack him. I know he was a hash dealer at one point in his life and when he was a teenager. But anyway, who cares? People did a lot. People did a lot of shit when they were 14, 15. That I did a lot of stupid shit. We all did a lot of stupid shit. But I'm not. So that building houses is a good thing. Let's be clear, okay? So in Ontario and in British Columbia, by the way, there's something called a Greenbelt. Okay, there's designated areas where you can't build. Leave it alone. Farmland, wetland, ecologically sensitive, and around
a lot of the escarpment.
There's just the Niagara Escarpment, which is that's probably real. Like we should probably leave the escarpment alone, but it's huge. Yeah. Greenbelt is in Ontario. And it basically forms a ring, it touches the lake. But it's a belt. Yeah, it's a belt around the GTA, the most populated place in Canada, in the Greater Toronto Area. It encircles it. The Greenbelt encircles it, okay, which creates a sort of a artificial restriction on building new subdivisions, new towns, okay. And so the Premier said, well, we got to move some land out of that Greenbelt. We got to get some new towns built. We have a great highway. We got highways we're trying to build, but we also have some existing highways, and we need to accommodate those. And we have some transit coming. And let's just take the land that makes sense to develop out of the Greenbelt and build some houses on it so people can live. Yeah. Okay, so we don't have this crushing housing crisis in Canada. And by the way, I support that. There'll be many, many comments. No, you're wrong. You dirty fucking right-wing bastard. You're wrong. The Greenbelt is sacred. We should never, we're destroying farmland. We're destroying that. Okay, fine. You can be mad if you want.
Listen, people are going to live on the Greenbelt regardless, people. It's just the difference is right now they're living in fucking tents.
They might live in their RV, okay? Or they might live in their car.
Because there are no houses. No, I'm legit serious about it.
No, it is serious. It's goddamn serious. You're right.
Now.
It's goddamn serious. You're right. And look, I'm not a planner. I'm not a expert on land development. I'm not Ron planning guy. Okay,
you're not the first go-to when you're putting in a kitchen.
No. But this is like even worse. Like I don't know. Like, should we build a subdivision in this area? What do you think of the water table? Oh fuck, I don't have a clue. Okay, like I don't know. I don't know. Okay,
owl test.
But like what I do know is I can drive around. We could all drive around Ontario, okay? And when everybody says, well, you can't take the farmland, that's our food security. Well, I got news for you. I drive around this Greenbelt, And yep, I can see there's some places we should not touch. It's very obvious we should not touch them. Okay. And then I drive around and I see some of them. There's no fucking farm there. Okay. There's no farm. All right. There's just a bunch of trees. It's a bush. Nobody's doing nothing on it. Okay. So yeah, and it's not, and there's no snowy owl there, and there's no, honey badger or whatever the fuck it is we're trying to protect. Okay, I don't know. I don't know shit about animals and
Honey
birds.
badger don't give a fuck.
I don't know anything about those things. Okay, but what I'm saying is, I drive around, I see the places, and I say, nobody's farming that. It's just a bunch of scrub trees, or it's just a bunch of bush, or it's just a bunch of, like, we could build something here. It's close to a highway. It makes sense. All right. And we don't. So the premier said, well, we're going to take some land out of the Greenbelt and we're going to designate it to build houses people need desperately. Okay. But the problem was, okay, how did he do it? So when it happened, a bunch of people jumped on it and said, well, wait a second. I noticed a famous developer, ultra-rich billionaire family. There's like 5 billionaire families in Ontario that have been buying land and banking land forever. Okay, They've been building new developments, and they do a good job. Their houses are good. I'm not complaining about any of that stuff. But their like grandparents came here from Italy because, like, let's just tell the truth. They're all Italian. Okay, so their grandparents came from Italy. Okay, and they did wonders. They came here dead broke, and they did miracles about building houses efficiently, effectively. They worked 18 hours a day. They came with nothing. They became rich. And then wisely, they said, well, we're not just going to take the profits and go to Disneyland.
Hawaii.
Or Hawaii. We're going to take the profits and we're going to buy land out farther out.
Yeah.
It's called land banking. Someday they're going to develop out there. So, and these now we're like, those old guys are gone. Okay, the guys who busted their balls and built all these houses. And by the way, the 70s was the greatest building boom in Ontario. Like, we built more houses in the 70s than we've ever built. Okay, by far, like by triple. Okay, like it's massive. And those guys were behind a lot of it. Okay, take nothing away from those guys who did that work. Okay, no. But now these grandkids swanning around. Okay, billionaire families. Okay, and it's just a fucking game with them. It's a game of making money. Okay, so how the fuck is it, like, there's this chief of staff for the housing minister. I can't remember his name. I actually looked up his name. Anyway, fuck that guy. He's there. He gets like 15 brown envelopes at a dinner from the Build, which is the Developers Association dinner. He's at a dinner. He gets these
it's like
15.
An episode of The Sopranos.
It's like a Sopranos, for Christ's sakes. Yeah. I mean, it's like he gets these up, but there's no money in them. But there's plans. There's
I thought
here.
there was money.
No, there's no money because I'll finish with that. I'll finish with the money part in a minute. Okay, so he gets these envelopes that are containing plans of here's where we want you to designate this land to come out of the Greenbelt. Okay, by some miracle, a couple of those guys had just bought some of that land. Okay, just like months before. All right, then recommended to Chief of Staff boy that he should put that land out of the Greenbelt, take that land out of the Greenbelt, and lo and behold, chief of staff guy, he bypasses all the other normal process and says, yeah, 14 out of 15, we're going to do that. And they did it. Oh. They took that land out of the Greenbelt, and the shit hit the fan. And people the opposition and the government said, my God, this is crazy. This is like horseshit, like it's corruption. Okay. And then they got the Auditor General to audit it. The Auditor General of the Province of Ontario audited it. And she came out with a report last week and said, yeah, I think there's fuckery. Okay. I think that some of these builders just got a lift of like $8 billion on this little shit. Now, by the way, that's bullshit. I mean, once again, she's auditor woman. She's not, I'm a mortgage guy, but none of us are really developer guys. Yeah. Okay. So I think it costs a shit ton to get those things developed. I don't think you make a profit of $8 billion. I really don't think so. But set aside all that the numbers are wrong. Even if it was just 800 million.
That's still a lot of money.
It's all fucking wrong. Okay. Like, it's all fucking wrong. So now let me I'm going to jump to the real corruption aspect of this. Okay. So here's what, in the old days, like you go back 50 years, 60 years, you used to catch politicians taking cash. Like the brown envelope story was cash.
Yes.
Real cash. It was like 50 years ago, you got like a box full of cash. Okay, that was your bribe. You took bribes. Okay, and some of those guys got caught because they were always guys. There were never women stealing, so that was in the past. Now the new thing. This was actually a brilliant thing. I'll give you the number one example of it. There was a congressman in the United States. I'm going back now 30 years, and he was pushing through a bill about Medicare. Medicare is how in the States it's sort of their crappy version of our healthcare. Yeah. Okay. So it just looks after people who are 65 and older. Okay. Who don't have enough money for healthcare. So it makes sure that everybody 65 and older has some support from the government, from the federal government. And he was pushing a bill through Congress that said, yeah, I know Medicare buys all these drugs for these old people, just like us in Canada. After age 65, your drug prices drop off a cliff. Like all the pills I take every day to stay alive, the price is basically zero. Yeah. So so same thing in the States. So this is the bill this Republican congressional leader put through. He put through a bill to say it's against the law for Medicare to negotiate with the drug companies. I know it's fucking crazy, right? But like the law stated that every time Medicare bought drugs from these drug companies, they had to pay full list price.
Wow.
And everybody went crazy. Like the Democrats went crazy. Reporters went crazy. This is crazy. You can't do that. You can't be the biggest drug buyer on earth and say that you have to pay full price for every drug. This is nuts. So this guy, he actually he worked his magic, and he did things that are against the law. He kept Congress open overnight. It come down. They were fighting the bill, filibustering the bill. Democrats were fighting it, saying this is crazy to help these drug companies who are already fucking crazy rich. And we're going to fight this bill, and we're going to filibuster it. And so this guy who was in a leadership position, the Republicans were in the leadership position in the House, Congress. He actually broke the actual law of the U.S., kept the debate alive for people to fly in, from Republicans to fly in from other places, kept it going overnight, broke all the laws. The Democrats are like screaming, "They're breaking the law. You can't do this. It's against the laws of Congress to keep this going." He did it, and he pushed the bill through.
That's some House of Cards shit.
That's real House of Cards shit. By the way, Kevin Spacey is uncanceled now. Okay.
What do you mean uncanceled? Did he
Kevin Spacey, he did not undiddle. They were not kids, by the way. They were like, but he won every case against him. Every case of sexual harassment against him, he won. Anyway, get away from sexual harassment for a minute. Back to this bastard lawmaker, this bastard congressman. So this guy, so the reporters started searching. Did he get money? Did he get money? Did he get money? Did he get money? No, he never got a dime. Never got a penny. There was no bribe whatsoever.
Oh.
The following year, that congressman retired. And one day after retirement, the Pharmaceutical Association of the United States hired him as a consultant for $3 million a year for the rest of his life.
Nice.
True story.
Yeah.
True story. He hasn't died yet. He's still getting his $3 million, does fuck all work, and gets his $3 million for life.
That's
okay.
Weird.
So that's the new system of bribery. It's
wait it out.
Just, I'm going to do the deed. I'm going to make sure you developers make a shit ton of money. But I'm not going to take any money now. I'm not breaking any laws, because even the Auditor General said there's no laws broken. Yeah. Okay. Bent to shit, bent like a pretzel. Okay. But no laws broken. Yeah. Okay. She agreed. No laws broken. So the bribe happens now, a year or two later. You got to play the long game. You play the long game. But that's okay, because that's how it's understood to work now. So you understand how this is going to work. You understand that your reward is later, but it's a big fucking reward. So what the actual fuck for today, reach out to Premier Ford. Stop this shit. Stop this shit. Fire that fucker. Change the law. I don't care. Make a special law just for that chief of staff bastard, okay? who to say this guy can never be hired by anybody in the construction industry for the rest of time, okay? Like, that sounds crazy. I know that sounds crazy, but you get so fucking mad at this shit, okay? So mad that because you know what human beings hate? And by the way, animals hate it too. It's been proven in animal studies. They studied dogs, cats, everything, monkeys, you name it. And they even studied little babies who are like less than 1 year old. We hate unfairness. We fucking hate unfairness in our souls, in our very DNA. We hate unfairness because when you show a dog, when you give one dog a treat, and you don't give the other dog gets mad at you. Okay, like we understand this as sentient beings in our souls. Unfairness, fuckery. Okay, Premier Ford, stop the fuckery. Don't let people get away with this shit. Fix it. There should be no advantage to billionaire families. They don't need the money, goddammit. They're billionaires, okay? Like, don't give them any extra benefits. It's wrong. Stop it. Premier Ford, smarten up. Yes, we need new homes. Yes, we should take some land out of the Greenbelt. Don't enrich fucking billionaires. It's bad. All right, we're out.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.